Well, this Sunday was the fifth episode of Game of Thrones, and I'm hella late with my review, but it seemed like the whole internet went to shit over it. Yeah, let's talk about it. First off, I want to just talk about my review of the season. I don't want to really get too caught up because I do got like a lot of personal perspective or personal point of view on the whole argument over what the writers did or chose to do. And I personally think that we're just fandom is going a whole other kind of direction. So I want to, as a fan of the show, review this apart from all of that. Maybe I'll do a separate video where we could kind of address it. I may kind of, I guess, touch on it because we kind of also have some legitimate concerns for the storytelling, if you will. But I'm gonna tell you what I thought about it. And this is a spoiler review, of course. So let's talk about it. So, first off, this episode, if you ask me, I really thought that, I don't want to say it went by too fast, per se. I really wish we just had a full legitimate season, or actually, and I don't know where I got the idea that it was a thing that all the episodes was going to be 2 hours this season or hour and a half. That's what I assumed or I thought. Well, turns out I was wrong, but the last couple of episodes were going to be an hour and a half, and it's like, well, why didn't we reach for this before so we could at least expand it? I just didn't understand what was the necessity. And I think I also heard, and next time I will come back and do a video about this because I really do want to go back and look through the just do some more research on a couple of things, because I also am under the impression now, just looking online, listening to a lot of videos, that people are talking about how that the cast also were ready to leave. It kind of makes sense. 7 years, leave on top. It's kind of been stretched out long enough. But remember, this is storytelling in the making. George R.R. Martin is still out here trying to create the last couple of books. You know what I'm saying? So to wrap everything up without his insight, without him methodically creating all the layers and foreshadowing and everything to be a little bit more satisfying, as loose a term that could be, especially in the present climate, to make it at least an even deeper, more in-depth, and more complex story. We're trying to tell that type of storytelling in 8 seasons. Or excuse me, 7 seasons. So the idea that you would think that there would be at least some understanding that this has to conclude. Like, I overheard somebody on another channel suggest that, well, if you didn't have enough time to do it, then just tell the story. And I guess it's hard for me to explain, because it's like, are you suggesting that they should have just told the story at the pace that they were going and cut it off? I don't know. It doesn't make sense, man. I don't know. I guess because I've seen what was going on online, it just makes it a little bit hard to review it, because as I review it, it's like some arguments don't make sense to me. But let's just go off into the major picks of the show. I really want to start off with the Hound. The Hound finally confronting the Mountain. I thought that was a very satisfying end. someone actually suggests him dying the way of his only fear, fire. I just thought that, well, one, I didn't understand how the mountain was the way he was. Like, I mean, I'm glad I'm watching the series from the beginning again, because I'm like, when did it so make the joke he looked like a dehelmeted Vader, and like right on the nose. It was like, how did they create that? Like, like, because it was like he was just eating sword stabbings. He was a straight up zombie, if you will. It was actually satisfying to see them actually look face to face and actually have that final battle, the battle that he said that he wanted, and he was thinking of damn near his whole life, and it was also, even though he didn't really express any kind of emotion, it was the first time you see the mountain when Cersei said, "Stay at my side, protect me, listen to your queen, protect your queen." He looked at her, was like, no. Like, he already knew it was all over anyway. He was like, yeah, this one's for me. Yeah, we gotta finish this. Yeah, little brother. And I thought that was actually dope. Another big pick I thought was, we finally got to see them humanize um Arya. I felt like what they did with her was they almost went way out of their way to make her look, like I said, magical, like nothing could touch her. Like, and it just didn't make sense to me. It didn't make sense to me. I mean, how do you run across? And I'm sorry, Bran could not have just been literally outside of the outside of the castle. I just don't know how Arya ran that far, that deep. Let's say at least a football field, if not at least two football fields, especially with all the dead standing there, that somehow he was so seduced to having Bran that none of the guys noticed this little girl running right past all of them. But God knows how long before she could have got to him. Unless you're literally telling me that he was hanging outside the castle. And then it was like, then what was the point of all of that? Like, they could have just rushed him. Like, it just was, it was like finally Arya was like, when he was like, yo, you're going any further here, yo, you will die. Like, don't be like me. This is where revenge is taking me, and I'm cool with it. You don't need to be like me. Don't. I'm cool with this. You should not. It was finally seeing Arya become like a human. I understand she had to get rid of a lot of that to be the faceless. I forgot, the faceless assassin. But she's an assassin. I'm not saying that she didn't know how to wield the sword, yes, but this is war. This is very different from a one-on-one or assassin's mission. This is legitimately war. This ain't what you do like that. So don't get me wrong, I expect her to be nice, and she was in a smaller space, but she was just doing way too much to just be like, alright, like, you're almost being written invincible now. Like, you're already magical enough. Like, you're going way beyond magical. Like, now you're like, you could take down experienced soldiers, experienced, you know what I mean? Like legitimate soldiers. Like Brienne, like, you can really take her that like that so smooth. Like, I don't know, it's just a little, they kept pushing that line way too far, which was with her. make no mistake, I understand why she was good from since she was a little girl because of what she was attracted to. And she was more bowman. That was her thing, her little thing. So I get her still being a bowman. I get her getting assassin's training. But I get her being faceless, but it was like instead of using that to her advantage, like it would have made more sense that she would have been a faceless dead woman, and somehow she was able to do that, and at least give you that. At least it was within her. It made sense for how that can happen, and for her to move past all of them to finally get to the Night King, and they could have wrote that differently, so the time would have it would have made a little bit more sense that she could have just did that. For her to just beeline past all of them and no one noticed, like it was just no one caught her. Like it was hard to buy. Like someone said, "Oh well, it was the night. If the Night Watchman was kind of like they were symbiotic to him, then that means that he still would have noticed her through them." I don't know, like it just throws me off. But anyway, I was just happy to see this was one season where she didn't seem invincible. She seemed genuinely scared, like, wow, I am in the middle of a war. Like, legit, this is different. And it made her seem, it made all the times you've seen her so invincible make so much more sense. Because at the end of the day, she's still young and she's seeing something extremely different, from dragons to really seeing them bring down a whole country. That she had to break face at some point. You know what I mean? Like at some point. Otherwise, you wrote her to be completely invincible. Even up to the point where you have her being damn near the only person alive in a white horse just showing up. I have no problem with things just luck just happening. But there's way too much shit happening with her. It's like she's becoming magical, like nothing can stop her. And then it's like, all right, then someone has to give. Otherwise, it's just like it almost seems that you have infallible characters, and that wasn't the way Game of Thrones was. Everybody had a gray area, and it was hard to like the villain, the person you see as the villain, actually has a method to their madness that maybe not everyone would necessarily agree with, but you could understand, or even if you couldn't understand, there was still another way to look at it. So everybody didn't have a hard line either or with any character per se, because they had their reasons, and because we all kind of went through the journey with them, or a lot of them through many of their own personal arcs, we got a chance to see why these characters are the way they are and why they could be perceived the way they are. You know? And I felt that Arya's, this was a chance where they actually kind of made you humanize her, made you identify her through her point of view. And I definitely noticed the 9/11, you know, corollaries, the shots, the ash. It was just really dope. Really dope. Another pick. Daenerys becoming the Mad Queen. Yeah, when you look back, yes, you can see it, but I'll be honest with you. I was just going through it as everyone. I was like, oh, she's becoming the Mad Queen. Okay. I see where you're going with it. And I was cool with it. I was cool with it. It was like, all right, well, now you're re, reshaping the way the chessboard is going to look now again. Because remember, in the very beginning, it was should everyone go against, it was getting the North with Daenerys and making sure that they could hold it down, and getting them to bring Winterfell into the not Winterfell and Cersei's kingdom. I can't think of it right now. Cersei's kingdom, or the Baratheon kingdom, and bringing them together to fight the Night King. But the thing is, the Night King, Cersei did not go. So she was, the way she was playing it was, I'll deal with whoever comes out of that. They came out of that. They still lost a lot. Now they have to go take Cersei. Cersei got with the bank, bought the Golden Army. Now they got their army. Now we're gonna see how this plays out. She made it a point to bring all the people indoors, because since you're the breaker of change, I know what you are. It was her saying, now let's see who you really are. Because if you're going to bring them dragons behind here, you're going to burn the people and let the people see what the breaker of chains will do to you. And don't make no mistake. A lot of people, I'm sure there's a lot of people that kind of seen where this was going. But remember, she didn't bring everyone behind the inner walls either. But she didn't care. She knew the people didn't like her. She didn't like the people anyway. But this is the game. She has to make sure that at least they become victorious so she can spin this as I protected us against the Mad Queen. Or the woman. Because look at what she did. The so-called breaker of chain. Look at what she was willing to do to get the throne. I saved you from that. And I killed her dragons. Like if she came out of this, she had her ducks in a row. Make no mistake. So her becoming the Mad Queen now, it was like she's taking Cersei off the chessboard. Now, what else stands between her and the throne? The fact that now the secret is out. Now when everything is done and she's the Mad Queen, the question is, as long as Jon makes it through this war, how will this play out? Because now all that's left is Winterfell. She takes the kingdoms. Yara claimed the Iron Islands for her. All that's left is Winterfell, and Winterfell is supposed to be already underneath her name. It's going to come from inside. What will happen with Jon? And the thing is, and me and my cousin was talking about it, she can't just deal with Jon, because to deal with Jon, you deal with Arya, you deal with Cersei. Not Cersei, Sansa. Because my cousin think it's only Arya he got to worry about. I mean, Dany got to worry about. Daenerys got to worry about. It's Sansa. And yeah, me and my cousin was building on it. Even he said, yo, you'd have to take them all off the chessboard. You have to get rid of the Starks. Now it makes the last game them. And to me, I feel like it's still not definitive that Cersei died. Because, like you say, you see it crumble, but you didn't really see them die. Is it possible she could have survived the rubble? And some people think that would be corny, but I'm like, if you could accept Arya somehow just magically making it there and killing the Night King, and then you have to allow yourself to suspend some sort of disbelief and go with that. They're trying to end the story. And if it's true, and I have to do research about it, that they were prepared to leave, and I get it. You put a lot of years into this. So you might want to go on and do different things. That this is Price of Tea in China. But anyway, let's hurry it along a little bit. And another thing that I picked out of this is Tyrion. Tyrion really, he thought that by bringing Varys to Daenerys' attention would have realign their trust. And in a way it did. Because I kind of feel like Dany was waiting on him to say something. To let her know that she's not delusional. That something is going down. Because I didn't realize, like, someone had to also, especially if she wasn't eating. And it was like, yeah, because Varys was trying to poison her. I didn't notice that. I didn't even catch that. Because I had to watch it into 3 parts. It was like, oh man, it's a long story how reception was cutting it off. Oh my gosh. And it wasn't going to play one day, so I had to continue where I left off. The next day, oh, it was a mess. And then I had to wrap it up at work when someone else was trying to catch up and caught up the last part. So I don't know how I missed that, but if that is the case, then it's also to be said that she was waiting to see if he was going to make sure that he was going to let her know that Varys was doing that, or that's her also descending into her craziness. Remember, she started feeling like, all right, fine, if I can't have this with love, because Jon kind of kept her even, just like she made sure she kept the right people around her to keep her even. So when she couldn't have Jon the way she wanted, if Jon's a good dude, then that type of rejection put him on the other side of the line. Remember, she kept a real hard line about that throne. Once she realized she was the mother of dragons and she felt like, yo, this is my destiny. No one was going to get in between it. And the fact that Jon didn't even want it almost made it feel like everything was falling into place, but it was still a loose end. Because she understood in this Game of Thrones, this is a loose end. So until you start having babies, then it wouldn't matter. But the argument would have been is the people would have had to defer to if it was the crown would have been their union, or the crown would have still been the bloodline. And then they would have deferred to her over him being the king. Or is it really the king then the queen? Or is it king and queen is the same level? It's the bloodline is the main ruler. And then that would have been they never really specify. But either way, she would have ruled that kind of way regardless. But she felt once people would have known, then if they didn't like her, all they had to do was get rid of her and it would be him. And she knew that he was a man that got the people without wanting it. That was a threat. That meant that no matter what, the people would put him into position. All they had to do was get rid of her, and they would anoint him. Because once they got rid of her, someone was going to have to assume control. Once people would have known that Jon was the actual rightful heir, they would have deferred right to him regardless. Only thing he could have did was just abstain or pass the crown off as as who he would have succeeded to, or he would have broke up the kingdoms on it, and that would have been it. It made it his law. And like I said, at the end of the day, it didn't matter about any of that. It was all about the Iron Throne for Dany. Her having to divorce her feelings from what she felt was her destiny, and how it all happened. Because he didn't know. She didn't know. They didn't know. This happened to both of them at the same time. It didn't make sense. It could make anyone feel confused. It wasn't hard to see her descent. And then it seemed like the decision she lost, she came up here, lost her dragons. She even admitted to sense that she felt like, who's I forgot the I can't say verbatim, but if I'm paraphrasing, who's in control of who? She came down there because of him. Her plan was to go to see Cersei, then she would have came up here. Yeah, it made sense that they dealt with the Night King now and then handled everything else later. Yes, that made more sense. But she would never even listen to this had it not been for how she felt about Jon. And Jon was going to bend the knee anyway because he came up here because he had to let it be known that it didn't matter. The dead is coming. Fuck a throne. And he's coming through Winterfell first. And I know I can't handle this by myself. And no matter what you think, you're going to have to deal with that nigga regardless. I got some information. You got dragon glass that will kill him. Oh, you got dragon. Dragon fires might work. We'll fight alongside you. It's not like we ask you to fight our war. But it's coming one way or another. Let's make our stand here when he's at his weakest. Because the last thing you want is him to take us as his soldiers. And then you have to deal with even more people. And remember, even Cersei didn't want the North to come into their battle because everybody respected the North. Yeah, and maybe not enough to take Ned's head, but they had to concoct a reasoning for it. They called him a traitor first, labeled him a traitor first. Then they made their move. That's what Joffrey did. It's still the Game of Thrones. Next pick. Cersei. Cersei taking such a turn of character, if you will, in terms of, and not really turn of character, or maybe the best way to put it is she is finally breaking down. I thought it was well executed because as you see Dany's descent into madness, you see Cersei's descent into being humble. When she told the mountain to stand by her side and he didn't listen and he bust the other guy in the head, it was her realizing that I'm losing control. I'm losing. I have no more cards to play. Once the Ironborn were blown, the Iron Fleet was burnt and taken right off of the map, the dragon was still out there. She couldn't deal with it. Once they took out all the scorpions, the weapons that slayed the last dragon right out the sky, Once she found a way to get rid of all of that, Cersei didn't have the upper hand anymore. And she didn't even know. No more hands to be played. And once Danny let you know that I will burn this whole shit down, I don't care. She embraced it. She said, I'll take it by fear. She made that decision before she ever took the field. It was her realizing it at that moment. Fear it is. Remember, that's why even Tyrion said that she's wise enough to know to put me into position, to know when to tell her to pull back. But she no longer will listen to her voice of reason because Tyrion made way too much mistakes. Now it made her doubt her trust in his decisions, not so much in him, in his decisions. So to see Cersei realize that you can't front no more. You can't fight this. Every move you played, it looked like it was coming into position. You had a guy that was sweating you so you could bring the best fleet out here. He was at the head of that. You no longer wanted to. Jaime already walked away, so you felt like he turned his back on the family. So him and Tyrion, they were no different. I have your son or your child. We will carry on. The name, I'll make this idiot allow him to get married so I could basically, by so-called bloodline, have the Ironborn into the fold and still be able to retain the throne. Because people would have thought, well, it's his, so it's legit now. Or because she was ready to come out and say she didn't care. It's my brother, whatever. And then the North wouldn't respect it, but she didn't care at this point because the North was with Danny. It was a move that she was willing. We already knew that she was willing. She was already starting to have her back against the wall, and she was already showing it. But she had an excellent poker face, and it just so happened that the Night King coming, she decided to use that to her advantage, which in a way was still a disadvantage because either way you look at it, somehow, some way, you was going to go to war. And I guess in a way, in her mind, I'm either dealing with dragons or I'm dealing with the dead walking. Either way you look at it, I'm going to war. But I'm not. Boom. But as far as she was concerned, she was not getting off the throne. And that was not up for negotiation. And neither was it for Danny. It already made Cersei go crazy. She didn't go full on lunatic into that kind of degree, but we've seen her break down and deteriorate, even down to her relationship with Jaime. It's just that Danny is cracking, and this is a woman that could ride on a dragon. You think if Cersei didn't have a dragon, she wouldn't have lost it the same? It's that Cersei handles things a certain kind of way. She tries to make sure she always looks like she'll never bend. Dany was different. That wasn't her hallmark. She sold in on the idea that she felt like she was just. She felt like she was prophecy. Cersei didn't give a fuck about none of that. She was like, this is the Game of Thrones. And I played to win. And I play with whatever is comes into play, and I use it to my advantage. That was her. It's just that now that she was at the very end, it was like we're finally seeing Cersei actually at that point where she wasn't in control anymore. And she may have to come to the conclusion that I will lose. And at the end of the day, I will not be at the throne, sitting on the throne. And it was interesting to see that, to see it in her face, to see it in her eyes, to succumb to that. And then also that last moment with Jaime, to see her actually, even though we know it wasn't deserved, but to see her for one moment be a complete human. She didn't want to do that to Jaime. People forget. She didn't want to do that to Jaime. But she felt like Jaime turned her back on her. And Cersei only know one way of handling things. But even at then, he was like, I'm leaving regardless. So you can have your soldier kill me. But I don't think you do it. He walked away. She could have gave him the okay, the mountain okay to kill him. But she let him go because she didn't want to kill him. But then she had an attitude and bribed Bronn. Was like, fuck it. She was like, I'm all in. I'm going to marry this guy. I'm not going to get my brother, which is weird. But she was with the shit. She was into that incest. And she was willing to do that because she was still at war. She had to deal with Dany regardless. And it's just, you're with my enemy. Both of y'all, if I get you guys off the chessboard through Bronn, I get my personal revenge, and I still kind of weaken Dany because I took the hand off of the board. And she don't have Jorah no more because Jorah died. She didn't know that though. But she was willing to play those hands. Her back was against the wall. And this was what was in her favor, for her to come out with her on the throne. And she had to protect herself and protect her child. And at least she got at least in her mind, she would have had his kid. Still, some part of him she would have had, and it would have worked in her favor. I forgot Euron. He would have been raising that kid as if it was his own. And then that would have kept her and her owning the Iron Islands. Not knowing that either way she was going to have to deal with Yara. But I don't know. I just liked to see that I guess roller coaster ride for her as she descends into realizing that she no longer has control. A woman that strong, that defiant, when it all ended, she had to run. I think had she not been pregnant, she would have died on that throne. She would never have left. She'd have said, fuck it, I will die a queen. But she had her child. Was what it was. But anyway, I like to think that should be it for the picks. I mean, good or bad. If you ask me, I think it was a great episode. A lot of things that I would not have expected to happen, at least, and I would have went certain kind of ways with it, but it wasn't up to me. It was a show, so you know what I mean. I let them tell a story, and this is a story that they wanted to tell. And you know what? For what it's worth, I was entertained. I liked it. So that's it for the picks.